I'm Connor Roll, and welcome to my new series, Masters of Controlled Chaos. What we're going to be doing, similar to my previous series, Old Oscar Countdown, is going to be a weekly show where I break down a director. This week, we're going to be looking at Paul Thomas Anderson. And essentially, because this is the first episode, let me explain a little bit why I decided to do this and what the series is going to be about. So I decided to do this based on the conversation that movie stars actually don't really exist anymore. You know, there's guys like Tom Cruise and maybe Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, two guys I'm big fans of actually, who are sort of considered the movie stars. But back in the old days, it's like, oh, I'm gonna see, a Marilyn Monroe movie or a James Dean movie. I mean, that's even further back. And I mean, things like the 70s, people started being aware of Spielberg and Scorsese and guys like that. But they want to see stars. I'm going to go see a Tom Cruise movie, etc., etc. And then I realized that today that doesn't really exist. There's not really any movie stars. But really the directors, and especially for me, someone who is a film fan, I'm actually, for example, Paul Thomas Anderson. When this new movie comes out, I'm going to see it regardless, not because of the premise. I think it sounds interesting, because it's the Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and I respect him, and he's given me that trust where I've liked almost every one of his movies, so of course I'm going to see it, and they've really blown me away. So that is sort of the reason why I decided to look and sort of celebrate these directors and their careers. This show is also partly inspired by Profiles, the show that is no longer continuing with Scott Nance and Alicia Malone over on the Popcorn Talk Network, where they break down anybody, a director, an actor, composer. This right now will be specifically directors, because I think there's a lot to sort of break down. And it's going to be sort of this long form sort of podcast style tapes, but I'm not sure if there will be more format to the next one or whatnot. But right now it's going to be very sort of a little messy, me just talking about him off the top of my head. But I'm going to talk about some pillar things in terms of what makes him who he is and why he's so, what makes the director themselves or their sort of style in a sense, and what makes them so good, because mostly I'm going to be talking about good directors, and I might tackle a couple controversial ones, maybe someone like Michael Bay in the future, who's very interesting and fascinating to me. But I have a whole long list. This should time be over until September for the Old Oscar Countdown fans, where I'll start that back up and hopefully and start looking at the Oscars again. I know we just finished, and you don't want to hear Oscars. Believe me, I'm sort of a little burnt out on Oscars. This is why I'm starting this new series. It should be a lot of fun and sort of a different angle. So if you're a fan of Old Oscar Countdown, try this out, watch a couple episodes, give me time to sort of figure it out, and if you enjoy it, tell your friends. Maybe you're an Oscar guy and you've been watching me and you like the show, this one, but your friend was an Oscar guy. Now try to bring him over, talk to him, say, hey, there's an interesting thing, as sort of a smaller guy, really passionate guy, at least that's how I like to think of myself. But anyways, I'm going to start off is talk about Paul Thomas Anderson and why he fascinates me, and what makes him so personal to me, and why I decided to do this for my first episode. So this is actually not my favorite director. My favorite director are the Coen brothers, which I might be doing next episode. I'm not sure. I'll decide. But I decided to do Paul Thomas Anderson because he sort of had an impact to me in terms of why I wanted to sort of do this, and almost as an inspiration in a sense, because Paul Thomas Anderson, for me at least, was a weird one because I didn't know too much about him. Inherent Vice was the one where I heard about him and I'm like, oh, interesting. I didn't really know that was a Paul Thomas Anderson. I didn't know too much about him. You get the pillars like Spielberg, Scorsese. I wasn't even looking to guys like Wes Anderson, Tim Burton, and those guys before just Paul Thomas Anderson. But then someone recommended me Paul Thomas Anderson. He's highly respected. Actually, Max Landis, screenwriter, tweeted out saying that I think he loves Inherent Vice and he loves The Master, and so he's a big fan of PTA. And so I decided, I'm going to take his opinion, and I respect it, so I would try it out. I'm so thankful I did. I've seen all of PTA's movies except for Hard 8, which we will talk a little bit about in referring to Boogie Nights, but that was sort of a pseudo Paul Thomas Anderson movie because he made it, but the studio had a lot of meddling in it, and that's why he made Boogie Nights in a sense for his second feature film. While doing some interesting research on him, he's very similar to a guy like Quentin Tarantino, where Tarantino did early stuff in the 90s, and he sort of joined the ranks of Robert Rodriguez and Steven Soderbergh in terms of that new indie breakout with movies like Pulp Fiction and El Mariachi from Robert Rodriguez. He sort of came a little later, but then again, I still consider Paul Thomas Anderson and Quentin Tarantino very much aligned in the sense that both of them didn't go to film school. They're just a fan of movies. And for a lot of us, I know that's incredibly inspiring because it's not like you have to go to school or you have to pay a certain amount of money. But then again, these guys, I think, Quentin Tarantino and Paul Thomas Anderson I would consider them geniuses in their own right, where they didn't need to do film school, they watched so many movies, they had such an extensive knowledge of movies that they knew how to make them in a sense and tried. And really something like Quentin Tarantino or PTA, like for example, he did a Dirk Diggler short before Hard Eight. And so I think he's done some filmmaking. It's not like he was just like jumped right into it. He's done some and practiced and honed his craft. But for a lot of people I know, you have to do like 4 feature-length movies before you actually get like a grasp on it. But for him to sort of come in here and get a good grasp on him, it really shows the work of a genius and masterwork. So one reason I'm going to tackle PTA is, and in the series I'm going to talk about why they're considered good, at least in my opinion, and why they're special to me. Also, I forgot to mention, just using my TV for once, that's Paul Thomas Anderson. I'll be using it a little more in the future, maybe doing some slideshows, whatnot. We'll figure that out. Anyway, stop the rambling. What makes PTA unique to me is really his sense of characters. We'll talk about that a little more in Boogie Nights, which I think is his best movie and my favorite movie. So normally in the series I'll talk about my favorite and the best, sort of back to back. But thankfully, Boogie Nights is my best and my favorite. But the characters. So for me, someone like the Coen brothers, why I like them so, they're my favorite directors, is because they can take characters, they can take the story and sort of the dialogue, and then they can also take it visually. And for me, movies are a visual medium first and a storytelling medium second. That's why I can get stuff out of movies like 2001 or even Tom Cruise's Oblivion, which I just watched. Even though the story didn't work, the visuals were still there. And so for PTA, I think he nails 2 out of the 3 really well, and that is visuals and characters. Dialogue sort of works in with characters, but they're not like incredible dialogue, something like the Coen brothers, where I think they nail all 3, where they have great dialogue, great characters, and interesting, amazing cinematography by Roger Deakins. But we're not talking about them, that'll be next week. PTA, so you have beautiful visuals from his cinematographer, Robert Elswit, showing off something in like There Will Be Blood. Just a beautiful shot movie, wonderful cinematography, beating out Roger Deakins for No Country for Old Men. And even something like Boogie Nights, where you have these incredible long takes that sort of segment the film and are heavily inspired. And I know a lot of people, you know what I mean, long takes are sort of like, oh wow, this is cool, this is hard. I know this is hard to do, so I'm a film fan, and then therefore I appreciate it, you know what I mean? People want to see those long takes, they're impressive to a lot of people. But I think he does a great job because he does long takes, but he also serves the story through those long takes. In that opening monologue of Boogie Nights, sort of just talking to everyone and sort of introducing all the characters. Another thing I want to point out about the characters is that really you could make a movie out of every character he's ever done, and along with characters comes with casting. So he makes these really well-written characters, which I think is a great foundation and a great base to build off, because if you have an interesting character, the dialogue doesn't need to be 100% amazing, because you have a character that can sort of drive the story because they're so interesting, you should want to see more about them. And when you have so many interesting characters, it's like an ensemble. Really, there's no star of a PTA movie, except maybe for something like Punch Drunk Love and Adam Sandler. But that's why you see stuff like his inspiration from Robert Altman. I'm starting to get into a little bit of Robert Altman, just watched The Player, just watched MASH. So I'm excited to get back into things like Nashville and whatnot in his career. But he's in the same vein in terms of he loves these ensembles where there's no really one main character, and there's all these great performances from people that you know doing different things and really getting the most out of them. And I think PTA does that the same. And right now I know PTA better, so I would say better. I don't know. But movies like Magnolia and Boogie Nights, and even something like Punch Drunk Love, where he takes Adam Sandler, who was sort of like this comedian who's falling down, and now, I mean, unfortunately, Punch Drunk Love didn't save his career. Something like he gets this performance, a really dramatic performance out of Adam Sandler that's really genuine, and he hasn't been able to replicate that the same. So it's almost like it shows the strength of the director, that he's able to get those performances out of the characters. And that's a big reason why I think he's a great director, is because he's able to write, because he is a writer-director. He's able to write these characters and then know who to cast for them and then develop them so well and get the performances out of them that you just want to watch these guys. You don't even care what's going on in the story. Something like Magnolia, which is probably my least favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie, but I know a lot of people like it, but I do respect that, where it's just like these so many interesting characters, you don't care about the storyline, and that they all weave through and you see these different vignettes. It's super interesting, and I love that PTA does that. Let's go into a little bit about Boogie Nights. Actually, one last point here. I think in terms of the characters, he also does unique stories, something like There Will Be Blood, the oil and sort of capitalism in California. And then also like Boogie Nights, the porn industry. Not a lot of people, nobody really touched on that. And even something like The Master with Scientology. Not really directly Scientology, but very much related to Scientology. And he takes these sort of interesting stories that no one's really done before, so that A, makes him unique. And then to be able to create interesting characters from that, and then interesting themes, like I said, with There Will Be Blood, that theme of capitalism, and then even something like, that's sort of the more overt theme, but then Boogie Nights, something, transition over there, the theme of family. Boogie Nights, why I love it so much, is because of, it's just a fun sort of what they call the West Coast Goodfellas. In a sense, I agree, except I think Goodfellas had a hard time because that's based on a true story. This is fictional, which is why it has a little bit of a happy ending. But it's true in terms of the sense of Boogie Nights is so high frenetic energy, and then even in the first half, really the 70s, and then the 80s transitions into more of a sad movie, but ends with sort of a happy note. Really, what's interesting to me about that is that, I'll start off by saying Paul Thomas Anderson, the reason why he did actually Boogie Nights is because he grew up in that area in, I think, the San Fernando Valley, and he actually met a couple of these people. He didn't, his parents weren't part of that, but he sort of maybe was wandering around and saw a couple of the guys and saw this sort of glamorous life. I have sort of an idea for a Scorsese PTA-esque movie about another industry that I would think would be good. I'll share it one day. Right now we're talking about Boogie Nights, and really it's just that transition and from that frenetic place until that sort of sad place, but all throughout it, it's a little less subtle, but still sort of overt in terms of that family theme. That's why I really like about it. So you have someone like Burt Reynolds, which apparently hated the movie, fired his agent after he saw it. He got nominated for an Oscar for this incredible performance by Burt Reynolds. I don't know why he didn't like it. Maybe he's a conservative guy. Burt Reynolds is sort of the father, and then Julianne Moore is the mother, and then Mark Wahlberg and Roll Girl are the daughter and the son, sorry. And you see that family dynamic really come in here, and sort of not really a mentor-y sort of situation, but a family situation. And it really sort of parallels out really well. I know I'm not the first one to say it, but I want to mention that for sure. And let's talk about the first half of the movie, and this is just so much fun. PTA, like Quentin Tarantino, takes so many influences from other guys like Scorsese. There's even a famous pool shot from, I'm forgetting the movie right now, where he follows the girl under the water in that one take. And really, the very first opening shot is incredible because it sort of shows this world and these characters. It's like, you only see a glimpse of them, but you know who that guy is with only a few words of dialogue, which is so incredible. And why I think ensembles are a lot harder to do than people realize, because you can nail like a Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle, but then you have to nail every character with only having certain amounts of dialogue. It's really tricky, and PTA, he's a master at doing it. He really is fantastic at it. And it's really fun. You can really tell sort of like this vibe. Everyone's having a good time. Porn industry is booming, successful, and then you find Dirk Diggler, he's washing dishes, and then we see his rise through the porn industry, being, porn male actor of the year. Really interesting to see. And then also, another thing I want to point out is really Mark Wahlberg. This could be his best performance. He's young. This is a movie I think that really transitioned him from not being Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch to sort of a real actor and serious and committed about this. And it's fun, high frantic pace, similar to like a Goodfellas, where it's like, oh my god, all the success, and there's a lot of drugs and sex, and it's like, it's rated R. PTA was actually said it has to be 3 hours and NC-17, and then they said, okay, you can't have both. You have to compromise somewhere. And he says, fine. He said it's going to be 2.5 hours, but it's still going to be NC-17. He really wanted that. Turns out though, when he made the movie, he realized, maybe these scenes don't really fit. It's like, I don't really need NC-17. So it turned out to be, I think, like 2.5 hours and a little bit more, and an R rating. And I think it obviously deserves an R rating, but it didn't need to be NC-17. It's done very tastefully. And that's something I really liked about it, is that it's not just like this really sexy sort of like porn movie. It's like dirty and grimy. It's sort of, and it doesn't really glorify it. It shows, the rise and the fall. But it really just is a great movie about characters that you like. Coming back full circle to why Paul Thomas Anderson is so fantastic. and then so after that first long shot, we see the rise, and then we see the second long shot. I would say maybe my favorite of we seeing William H Macy's character, the one take of him go into the room, seeing his wife cheating on him, walking out, taking in the gun, going in there, shooting her, and then going and then shooting himself, all while New Year's happening from 79 to 80. It's a beautiful way, the best way in any movie, transitioning from the decades. Sure, like you hear in the background, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then 1, you hear the bullet, and then the screams, and it's incredibly done. I mean, like I said, I enjoy those sort of things, I think a lot of people do, but it serves the story so well because it shows this tone. It's almost like a Shakespeare-esque thing where it's like, now there's a transition to play. This is what's going to happen from here on forward. It's sad. While everyone's happy, having a good time, New Year's, they think the 70s is going to happen, and boom, reality hits them. And it's the 80s. And I mean, it's 1 year, but it is a symbolization of a new decade. And then we see Dirk Diggler, sort of fresh blood come in, and he gets a little bit jealous, and he says, I don't need this. I'm Dirk Diggler. And then he tries to create an album, which actually is doing the Transformers, 1984. I forget the song, but it's a great song, sort of typical 80s, sort of referring to that in the booth when he actually literally just sings the song. Another film reference there. I could talk about Boogie Nights film references all the time, but that was really cool. But then it falls, and then he sort of gets on the wrong guy. And I was actually listening to the Cinephiles podcast about Boogie Nights with John Roca and Steve Morris. Great podcast if you want to talk about sort of new, different movies and breaking them down. And they talk about guys that they hear from guys sort of, oh, how'd you get into drugs? It's like, well, you sort of know a guy who can get the drugs, and then you sort of become friends with him, and he's sort of a sketchy guy, and it's not John C. Reilly's character, it's actually Todd, I'm forgetting the actor's name, but he's sort of the guy that you become friends with because he's a male stripper, but he can get you the coke, and then they just do that, and they sort of run out of money, you know what I mean? And you can really see this fall down to the rise down to the fall, and it's arguable where the fall is. It could be Dirk Diggler getting beat up in the parking lot after those guys come. And then it also could be the situation where I think it is, with the incredible scene with the guy from Indonesia, I think, where he's throwing the crack, what do they call it? We throw them on the ground and they pop. Anyways, if you've seen Boogie Nights, you know what I'm talking about. And then you see Jesse's girl being played in the back. He's sort of this really weird sort of guy that has a lot of money, and he has a bodyguard, and they're going to give them fake coke, and it's like, wow, they really need the money, and they're really desperate, and it's just like some interesting thing about that. So you see these firecrackers being popped off like that, and keeps Mark Wahlberg and John C. Reilly sort of jumpy, right? So randomly, PTA would sometimes just grab them and throw them behind them to startle them and get these genuine reactions. And it's just an incredible, well-written scene. Roger Ebert describes it perfectly in terms of his favorite scene in the movie. It might be mine too. It really is an incredible scene. Just super well-written, super creative, and the tension is real in this awkward way that sums up the movie so well. But then he hits that low point. And then we sort of come to the end of the movie where he has to come back and sort of forgive himself. Of course, I'm missing things. It's not a huge breakdown of the movie, but in terms of the scene with him, Mark Wahlberg and Julianne Moore's character, and then we're not even talking about Don Cheadle and his sort of storyline that's really interesting, and he's maybe the only genuine character of the movie where it sort of shows the stigma against porn and sort of how the bank won't give him a loan for that, and then that scene where he's in all white, and then all three of the guys die in the donut shop because of like a Mexican standoff. And then he's just there, and there's a thing of money, and he takes it and starts up his Bucks stereo place, which I think you do a great job with. I love Don Cheadle's character, and that's the thing. And then, oh my God, we didn't even talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman, a staple in PTA's movies. He does a great job in this, like sort of just little things that he does. For example, when he's getting Mark Wahlberg's character out of the change room into his first porn production. He's sort of like grabbing the pennies, like biting on it. And it's like you can sort of get the thing that he's gay, but he doesn't want to come out. And it's just a really interesting thing. And I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace, an incredible actor. A really big fan of him. And Paul Thomas Anderson movies. I mean, The Master could be arguably his best when he's in that. He is so good. I'm just gonna take a look at my notes here. And then so that's really it for Boogie Nights. And really, I want to talk about why Boogie Nights is my favorite. It's just because of that frenetic energy. It's so awesome to see, but then also that tragic downfall. And then I want to talk about another thing I just remembered. Goodfellas versus Boogie Nights. I would show people Goodfellas over Boogie Nights. But why? It's because most people, there's sort of a mix-up here in North America between sort of sex and violence. You can show them Boogie Nights, and they'll be like, "Oh, man, I can't handle this. This is too sexy. This is too rated R." But then you show them Goodfellas, where they're blowing people's heads off. They're like, "Oh my God, it's so fun! Yeah." Because we're more desensitized to violence than we are to sex. So it's an interesting thing where there's not a lot of violence in Boogie Nights. There's that one dead girl overdose on OD and whatnot, and there's that shootout scene, of course. But there's not really the level of violence in Goodfellas. But there's just a lot of sex. So it's an interesting thing of almost how we perceive here in North America the differences between the two. Just an interesting thing to point out. Another thing why I respect PTA is that he takes challenges. Like the porn industry, nobody really did that. It was super risky to do, especially after your second feature film, to make a 2.5-hour rated R movie that was by the porn industry. Like, oh my God, it's such a huge risk for a movie company. I couldn't believe what he had to fight for, which is why, because his experience with Hard Eights, he sort of got bullied around. He knew for Boogie Nights, he can't get bullied around anymore, and he has to say, this is our budget, this is what's happening, I'm the guy here. Sort of show that dominance. And then also the uniqueness of tackling something. I haven't really talked about his other movies, or something like There Will Be Blood, a fantastic movie, I think. Third favorite, I would say. But tackling something like Inherent Vice, a movie that not a lot of people liked, sort of a weak one for PTA, they thought. I thought it was actually fantastic, because it's sort of symbolizing of that sort of decade thing that he explores here in Boogie Nights, and sort of taking this Thomas Pynchon novel that's it's non-linear and making it into a linear story, and having that character played by Joaquin Phoenix, who's done a great job in The Master and then in Inherent Vice, and just stumbling around and not really getting on. And while even the drugs are sort of going to like capitalism sort of area, he's sort of in the past. It's really interesting. I think a lot of people didn't almost get it. I don't want to say that, but I think that, maybe with multiple viewings, which happens with PTA movies, that you have to sort of get it. Something like The Master, I liked the first time, I was intrigued, but then multiple times I was like, wow, that's a really good movie, beautifully shot on 70mm, really incredible, just visuals and stories and scenes from Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix, really incredible. I love The Master, I know a lot of people don't. For me, that's my second favorite out of his movies. And then, like I said, Magnolia, not a huge fan of, probably the worst. And then a couple things, just side things about PTA, is that people don't know he's actually a music video director and some stuff. He's done stuff with Radiohead. So if you're not really interested maybe in watching his movies, watch a 6-minute video from Radiohead, the music video Daydreaming. It's an incredible video. And then there's even better 18-minute sort of breakdown of it. That'll be super interesting to see, I think, and sort of it'll mess with your mind as it did with mine. Sort of like, oh my God, what does this mean? It's super weird, super interesting. And then also his upcoming project, I like to mention, with Daniel Day-Lewis. Very well could get Daniel Day-Lewis's 4th Oscar. It's a 1950s London-based fashion project. Should be interesting. I can't wait for that. I will be there day one. But anyways, guys, I'm a big fan of Paul Thomas Anderson. This has been the end of our episode of Masters of Controlled Chaos. I really enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed doing this. Maybe I'll have a little bit more format, sort of bounce back and forth. Maybe I won't. But I really like Boogie Nights. It's my favorite. I think it's his best. Just it's so well done. Could he ever top it? Maybe not. And it really is just sort of like an epic proportion with all these characters and the length and the spanning decades. And it's really interesting stuff. But anyways, my name's Connor Roll. This has been the first episode of Masters of Controlled Chaos. Leave a like if you can. Subscribe to the channel. Share with your friends. And until next time, stay tuned.